Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to a brand new episode of One Guy and One Beer. I am your host, Nick Ostick, and yes, we are back after a prolonged hiatus. It's probably been about a year, maybe a little more, but we're excited to be back. We're excited for this show and a whole host of upcoming future shows. Um, I'm gonna hope to do, or I hope to do at least one, maybe two per week. So get two of them out there, every 5 to 7 days or so. We'll see how that goes, but that's the goal. Um, as I said way back in the beginning of doing this show, I am by no means an expert or any kind of certified, aficionado, but I've read a lot about beer. I've both the styles and tastings and the brewing aspects of it, and I'm I fancy myself fairly plugged into the beer community, the beer scene. So hopefully these reviews, guide you guys in your own exploration of craft beer, and hopefully you get some use out of this and can discover something you hadn't had before, or revisit something you've had before, and sort of rediscover why you liked it. And plus, I just enjoy doing this. So if you guys get something out of it and I get something out of it, hopefully everybody wins. So like I said, yeah, it's been a year. A lot's happened. I've done some beer writing for different publications. I'll probably post a link to some of that stuff down below in the description section if you guys are interested in checking that out. As you can see as well, my beloved Chicago Cubs are back into the postseason for the second year in a row, and on the precipice, knock on wood, of going to the World Series. So that's obviously got me enormously excited. And last, but by no way least, my wife Kate and I welcomed our first child about 6 weeks ago, a baby girl, Nora Joanne. Spirited little thing, but mom, dad, and baby are doing very well. A little sleep deprived, a little frazzled at times, but by no means no worse for the wear. So yeah, it's been a really great 6 weeks, and with her in our lives, and we look forward to many more weeks of excitement and challenges and opportunities and all that good stuff. So. In thinking about which beer to sort of relaunch the show, obviously I wanted to do something that has some sort of special meaning to me, but just something that I want to share with you guys and think that you guys should check out. And I was talking with a friend on Facebook this past week about this beer here, and I realized I had a couple of bottles lying around and thought it would be a good one to sort of jump back into the show with. And the beer that we're going to look at today is Racer 5 from Bear Republic Brewing Company. They're out of Healdsburg, California, which is smack dab in the middle of wine country, I think up there in Sonoma County, which is kind of cool to have a big brewery right in the middle of a bunch of wine folks. And the reason it's sort of a special beer for me, as I first had it about a year ago when Kate and I visited San Francisco, had it on draft out there quite a bit. I mean, it's a pretty ubiquitous beer out there. I mean, as you would imagine, San Francisco being right on top of wine country. Had it for the first time out there. It immediately became probably my favorite West Coast IPA. I mean, I think the only one in my mind that can touch it is Firestone Walker's Union Jack. But it's special because it was a beer that you, until recently, couldn't get out here in the Midwest. Bear Republic used to distribute out this way, but given the pretty severe drought in California, they had to pull back on their distribution. So, I always kind of associated this beer with my San Francisco trip, with our little bit of time we spent out there. However, they just started re-entering the Midwest market. I believe they're pretty widely available in Wisconsin now. I'm hoping they come back to Illinois soon. We'll see. But yeah, so it was nice to find this a few months ago when I was visiting some family in Wisconsin, and for that reason, and the fact that I just again think it's an enjoyable beer, thought it'd be a good one to start the show off with. So let's get into it. Racer 5, what is it? Racer 5 is Bear Republic's IPA, and it's probably, well, not probably, it is their like it's their core IPA. It's probably the beer they're best known for. I said West Coast IPA a minute ago. What is a West Coast IPA? A West Coast IPA, it's a sub-style of the India Pale Ale category, but it compared to East Coast IPAs, West Coast IPAs are aggressively hopped, and aggressively hopped using those classic American craft beer hops, your Centennial, your Cascade, your Columbus. They're known as the C hops, and they're very aromatic. They have a lot of citrus qualities to them. They can be kind of piney, kind of resinous, kind of dank. But as a result of these beers being so heavily hopped with those particular hop varieties, these beers are very dry, can be quite bitter for sure. But when done properly, at least for me, there is a slight bit of malt backing there. So while they're not balanced like an East Coast IPA, there's enough malt presence there to sort of give these beers, I guess, some dimension or some depth. And like I said, Racer 5, they're the beer they lead with, the one that sort of anchors their lineup. And Bear Republic's been around, I think, since '95. So this is definitely, in terms of the style, one of sort of the elder statesmen of the West Coast IPA style. So, enough about that. Let's just dig in, shall we? Let's see if there's anything here interesting on the bottle. Racer 5 is an aggressively styled India Pale Ale. Not too much interesting. Bear Republic's whole shtick, I'll show you guys the label art there. All their beers have sort of that race car theme. So that's kind of their bents. They've got Racer 5, there's Cafe Racer, there's Racer X. There's a whole, that's sort of their whole, all their beers follow that same naming and design trend. So also a cool thing about Bear Republic, if you guys can get it, they do date their bottles. They give a Best By date. I'm struggling to see it now. I believe this, it's usually down here at the bottom, and I can't see it now. The ink might have worn off, but I believe this bottle was good through early November. So we're in mid-October now. Not super duper fresh, but still within code, and hopefully it still, let me turn the bottle around. There you go. Hopefully it still holds up. So let's give her a whirl, shall we? Wow, I can smell it. The aroma just jumps out of the glass. So pretty hopeful that the hops have stayed intact and it's not gonna be degraded too much. Give myself a nice little pour there. Oh, it was a little too aggressive of a pour, but that's all right. We shall survive. So yeah, let's take a look there. Golden color to it, maybe light straw. Really nice. That's an impressive amount of head there. Nice sort of pillowy, fluffy head. Maybe a finger, maybe a little bit less, but really just sort of fluffy, and pillowy. Pretty transparent. This beer, along with, I believe, the rest of Bear Republic's lineup, is bottle conditioned, so there might be a little bit of yeast in the bottom of the bottle, but very little haze. Like I said, you can kind of see a finger through it if you hold it up the other side. Really, really beautiful looking beer. Just a quick note, Bear Republic's Racer 5, I believe it's 7% alcohol, something like 60, 70 IBUs, so a bigger beer for sure. But that's kind of their shtick. They've got, I believe, a majority of their beers in terms of alcohol and IBUs that bittering unit, they're all pretty high. So let's see what she smells like. Yeah, right at the front, a ton of citrus, almost like a candied orange note to it. Maybe like an orange gummy candy. A little bit of sort of grapefruit, like sort of the bitter, pithy part of a grapefruit. A little mango maybe as well. But it's all very candy. Like again, if you go to like your farm and fleet or your farm and barn or whatever sort of your farm equipment store is, wherever you are, and you get those candies that come in the package and they're gummy candies and they're kind of dusted with sugar on top a little bit. That's what this smells like. Definitely sort of a creamy element, almost like an oranges and cream kind of thing. Um, Not an orange Julius, but you can just smell that there's something sort of um, sugary and like I said, creamy about it. But a little bit of grass, like sort of fresh cut grass, a little bit of a little bit of pine, but not like other West Coast IPAs that are all resin and they're all pine tree essentially. This is pretty subtle, but so yeah, um, medium bodied, medium to full almost probably. Well, medium bodied. Um, Definitely some bitterness here, for sure, from those hops. Um, the flavor follows the aroma almost identically. So you're getting that orange, you're getting that grapefruit. You're definitely getting some dank, slightly grassy, or maybe even almost woody characteristic to it. Um, but yeah, really, you can feel the hops sort of clinging to your teeth. But there is a nice, like I said earlier, a nice bit of malt backing here. So it's kind of a little bit brisket. Brisket would be interesting. Biscuity or bready. So almost like a biscuit with a really sort of sweet orange marmalade spread on it. Um, but yeah, the bitterness does continue to grow, but it's not unpleasant. It's not overpowering. It's really just enough to make you want to go back and have another sip to sort of quench that bitter aftertaste. And that creaminess too comes through as well. I know creamy's not really a smell, but it had a creamy sensation, and it definitely comes through on the palate. And the creaminess sort of hits you mid palate just before that bitterness comes in and sort of cuts that sweetness there, and sort of it makes the whole sort of second half of the sip really palatable. Otherwise, I could see that creaminess being a little bit overpowering. But yeah, my suspicions were right. A really really well made, dry West Coast style IPA. If you can hear squawking in the background, that would be the aforementioned new addition to our family. She's, I'm sure, just wants to get in on the beer review action, but all in good time. But yeah, what would I rate this beer? Would I get it again? Yes. On a 100-point scale, I'd go 89 or 90 with it. I think if you have it super duper fresh, those hops are going to pop even more. Not to say that they're not popping now, but they might be a wee bit muted. But definitely a bottle at this stage, like I said, about 2 or 3 weeks out before it's out of code, still drinking very very nicely. Hmm. And a deceptively easy drinking beer too, given the ABV on it. You don't get any impression of alcohol. Goes down easy. A really very smooth beer. Yeah, fun stuff. Well, that was Racer 5 from Bear Republic Brewing Company in Healdsburg, California. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for checking us out and continuing to check us out. Like I said, more shows coming in the future, hopefully 1 to 2 per week. If you guys have suggestions for beers you want me to check out, or suggestions for the show, or what have you, you can drop us a line at oneguyOnebeer@gmail.com. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter. If you like what you see, share the video, spread the word. And yeah, so until next time, guys, go get this beer, and I'll keep drinking. Cheers.